Hi, everybody. You're probably thinking right now, like, who am I going to be speaking to today? Today, I'm going to be speaking to Jennifer. I'll tell you why. Jennifer, I'm excited for two reasons. One, she's great when it comes to creative real estate. Also, she used to live just up the road from me in a little place called Sherman when I was living in Dallas, Texas. So we may go there as well. Anyway, I'm going to get all about Jennifer and find out what a genius is today. Let me introduce you. Jennifer, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's a wonderful Friday and it's almost the weekend. Not that we as entrepreneurs know the difference, but sometimes I feel like saying it's the weekend makes me a little bit more relatable.
Well, it's funny. People talk about Wednesday being hump day, right? And
Yes.
then I was thinking, imagine I've never really know. I'm always saying to my PA or my staff. I remember once it was like, "What are we all doing today?" They said, "Rick, it's Saturday. We're at home." I'm like, "Oh, okay," because I don't even realize. Like, I don't notice Monday to Friday when you love what you do. You know what I mean? It's
So true. Yeah. I
yeah.
take Sunday off for the Sabbath, but otherwise I work the whole rest of the week. I notice the world kind of shuts down on Friday, but I'm still pushing, Rick. So yeah, thank you so much for asking.
Wow.
Glad to be here today.
You know what? If you love what you do, it's kind of more like a hobby that you just love that you'll do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Um,
That's true.
Give me a bit of a backstory, just so that people who are all glued in, they're like sucked into watching this right now. Tell me a little bit about the Jennifer story.
Yeah, so I specialize in both finding and funding deals. So I have a team of about 212 people all around the world who specialize in finding deals over the phone,
Yeah,
otherwise known as cold calling, but we also do lead management as well. And then I also fund deals as a broker for DSCR for single family and also hard money loans for flips. And then I'm also a commercial loan broker. That's more what I do more commercial loans than I do single family. And then I'm also a mother of two boys, and I love hiking, which I know is a little bit cliche, but I like hiking in really wild places where there's no 911, there's no cell phone service. You're pretty well on your own, and that's what I do to kind of uh, relax and replenish after having so much responsibility otherwise.
yeah. No, look, it's so hard these days to find a place in the planet that you can unplug and get back to the old days, which was why before we had phones. A couple of things you said that I want to go there about the 200 people, but before we go there, what got you down this direction?
Well, that's a great question. My friend Heather, I needed a job, and my friend Heather said, "Hey, Jen, I've known you since, the late 90s, and I've never met anyone else who could predict people's behavior and motivations better than you." Those are her words, not mine. "And I really need you to come and work with me in this company and talk to these sellers over the phone and see if we can find out their motivations." And I thought, "Okay, well, how much does it pay?" And she said $5 an hour. I said, "Okay." I was I was 30 years old, maybe barely 31. Yeah, I was barely 31. And I just needed something to pay the bills because we were on the other side of the economic equation where just a $200 a month increase in rent we could not sustain, and we were facing moving back in, or not that we'd ever live with, but moving in with my mother-in-law, and just making that extra $200 a month for $5 an hour from home, talking to sellers over the phone, allowed us to stay in our crappy apartment with our brand new baby and my 5-year old son. And so, really, it was out of desperation. And to me, it was just another job. I didn't see where it was going to necessarily lead to. I had hope. And even my grandma was like, "Jen, why you just got your degree? Why would you take this $5 an hour job?" And I said, "Because just give it 10 years, Mimi, and you'll see what I think this can turn into." But it was pure hope. I mean, I had no basis of fact that what I was doing would turn into anything. But I saw how people were taking this vehicle of real estate and completely changing their lives and setting themselves free. And I was willing to put in the time at a very small hourly rate to learn from them. And that's what I recommend to anyone who wants to change their situation. Offer yourself as cheaply as possible in cost. Get in there, learn, be the best you can be, and you'll find that you have no competition, because
Well,
success is a matter of your willingness to do whatever it takes over a long period of time.
they always say everybody always pays for the best. No one ever calls you up and says, "Can you give me a bad carpenter?" Right? So everybody always says, "Give me the best," right? No one ever has a heart attack, falls on the side of the road and says, "Quick, Get me to the cheapest doctor. So, right. So I get that. So, okay. So here's the deal. You've then started. So you've got these like little baby steps, right? And
Yes,
let's go back a little bit. How long ago are we talking now?
that was 9 years ago.
Okay, so 9 years ago, because I know there's a lot of people going, "Oh my God, she's done this in 9 years." You're talking about you've got connections with 200 people. How do you run that? I mean, you've got a family, you've got boys, and you've got 200 people that you're playing with. How do you run and manage an organization like that?
Well, to be totally transparent, I do typically work about 15 hours a day. And if I don't, then I have client attrition because no matter what I do in terms of trusting people to do what they're supposed to do, if I am not, you know, being mother hen to everybody, standards do tend to fall off. Now, not for everybody and not at the same rate. So the worst employees, of course, the rates fall faster. But I've seen even my best ones start to have their standards slip over a couple of months if I'm traveling or something like that. The same way, even though I've been at the gym for 5.5 years, I still have the same personal trainer because my form will slip without someone watching my back, even doing my best. So I feel like, you have to be present in your business. And there's this saying, oh, you need to replace yourself and all that. Well, Jeff Bezos, when he wakes up in the morning, he still gets up and works all day. So does Elon Musk. And here's the thing, you still work all day, every day, but your job looks different. So you may not still be doing client intake. You may not still be going to properties. You may not still be, unclogging toilets, but you're still working all day. You're still being present in your business. And anyone who says otherwise is selling something, in my
Or
opinion.
or they just haven't been there. And so it's really quite interesting. One of the things I learned like 20 or 30 years ago, people go, you know what? If you want all your problems to disappear, just become super, super rich and super, super successful. Then one day you find yourself on the top of the heap and you're thinking, no, the problems don't disappear. They're just different problems.
That's right.
Right? So the problem's always so if you're watching this, everybody, if you ever think you're going to make a bucket load of money and your problems will disappear, I promise you they will not. It's just they're different problems, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though I work to keep my life as simple as possible, keep my overhead low, I keep my personal life very simple. But even then, it just means that I have a longer runway for a crisis to occur.
Yeah.
But yeah, the simpler you keep your life, the less crisis you're going to incur and have. But you're absolutely right, Rick. Your problem is the same.
I come along, I meet you. What can you do for me?
Yeah, so we find the deal. So, for example, we pull lists like data and skip tracing lists. We
Right.
pull those for you. That's all in house for us. And then you tell us what criteria you're looking for. I know you said you're doing a lot of creative finance. So then you're probably going to want people who have a lot of equity, maybe people who've owned their property for a long time. Of course, unless you're doing subject to, and then you reverse all that criteria, right?
Yeah.
And we say, Jen, we want your people to call and, make these creative offers. Now, of course, as you guys know, creative offers are often best done in person, but it doesn't mean that they can't be done over the phone. It just means that your success rate is going to go down. So if you're first getting started, you may want to have an appointment setter set appointments for you so that you can then go in person and convince them to do these creative deals with you. And so that's what we do is you tell us what list criteria to pull. We will pull it for you. And then my people call and have that substantive dialogue to see what's their motivation, what's the condition of the property, how soon would they like to sell, and for how much. And that's what we're able to ascertain. And because I sat on the phone myself for all those years, cold calling, lead management, uh, and all these different capacities, anything you can do, sending contracts, getting them to sign it over the phone, different things like that for wholesalers. I did that for many, many years full time. And so I have this kind of instinct and sixth sense on whether or not someone is closable. And so I teach that to all of my staff one by one. Now, I did not acquire them all at once. That would be overwhelming. First, I would bring 10 and I would train up those 10. And then those 10 would refer their friends. And then I'd get those people up and running. And then they would want to bring their friends because they like working with me. And so that's how it grew. It grew because, I mean, sometimes I have to ask for help. Sometimes I'm like, hey, I need an American, and then I'd have 100 Americans apply, or, I need another Filipino, or I need an Egyptian, or, whatever it is, right? From different places around the world, people tend to have all different types of amazing talents. And so that being said, they all grew organically over time with one friend referring another. And that's how it grew. So it's very gradual over the last 7.5 years since I started my agency. We make those calls. And then on the other side, where I'm funding the deals, if you need to fund a well maintained, higher, 90% and above vacancy apartment complex, I would love to help you with that. If you want to refinance your single family, I'd love to help you with that. If you want to do a fix and flip loan, I'd love to help you with that. But
Basically, I could plug into an operation like yours. You're going to find out all the people that want to sell a property. Your people will do that initial phone call that
right,
finds out if they're in the game or not in the game. And I agree, if it's a creative type strategy, you can't really do that over email. It's
very
all
difficult.
right.
Yes,
Yeah, it's got to be done live. Although what I find works these days, thank God for the pandemic, is the best thing that ever happened. Everybody across the planet Earth worked out how to use Zoom. So
yes, that is good.
before the pandemic, yeah, I was always on an airplane flying somewhere. So really what happens is I could walk in, I can say, listen, Jen, do me a favor. Find me a bucket load of houses that I could buy. And you're going to trim the fat, do the first phone calls, get it down to what I call the juicy conversation. I'm going to then
True.
come in or get one of my people, and we're going to do that, what's called the higher level conversation, to see if this
Yes.
guy's in the game or not, And to this day, I've always found upside down houses or negative amortization properties always the most profitable ones anyway. And people who owe more money on a house than what the house is worth, I always go for those. Which, by the way,
Do you see a lot of those these days?
yeah, depending on which country I'm in. So right
Okay,
now,
gotcha.
okay, so it depends on what country, because yeah, it was huge in 2014 in Greece, huge
Yes.
in Spain in 2010, huge in England 2008, huge in America 1991. Like, all these countries have different cycles, right?
Interesting.
People are people. I figured out people are people the same around the world. People have the same problems, same issues, same concerns. The only two things is they speak a different language, and the little piece of paper you use is different. In actual fact, we had the Greek crisis, and I was in Greece. I was the only person in Greece who didn't speak Greek. And then what I'd do is I'd get all these mums and dads that wanted to sell their house because everybody was bailing out. It was like getting off the Titanic.
Right.
But they had to bring their 10-year-old kids because the 10-year-olds speak English, but the parents didn't. So I'd sit in this coffee shop, and all these kids were coming in their pajamas and little teddy bears and stuff because they were going to bed, but mum and dad's dragging them out of bed to come out of the coffee shop and sell this guy a house from a foreign country who doesn't speak Greek.
Fascinating.
Yeah, another anyway. So okay, so then now I've got a house that you've already gotten rid of all the dead wood, if you like, right? And then on
Yes,
the other hand of the business, if I need to fund it and finance it, I can call you and you'll bring that to the table.
that's right.
Wow, that's kind of like an all-in-one.
Right. Well, I have nothing to do with the rehab process. I don't know anything about construction. I don't know anything about property management. So I just find and fund the deals. How you stabilize the property, how you manage the property, that I cannot help you with.
Where does Jennifer want to be in the next, say, 24 months? Where are you going? What's your passion? What's your direction?
I'd like to have a ton of mailbox money. I don't need, hundreds of millions. Just enough to be free, like everyone else. It's like my friend Adrian Smoot said. There's three things that everyone wants: to travel more, help people, and spend more time with family. So I'm just like everybody else in that way.
Well, you
I
know
want
what?
to travel more, spend more time with family, and help more people.
Look, it doesn't matter how much money you got. You can only be putting one steak in your mouth at a time out of one restaurant, right?
True.
Right? People go, I have 19 cars. I'm thinking, really? So when I go to the supermarket, I need more than one? So
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
No. Exactly. Yeah. I've been down that consumer road, and it was pretty empty. Although it was fun at first, but after a while, you realize, okay, this isn't it. This is
And that's
this is
fact. That's funny.
advertisement.
I think we've all been there. You buy all the
Yes.
tools, all the trinkets, all the bits and pieces, and then you look at them, and there's no emotional connection to it. You're going, oh, they're just stuff. It's just stuff, right? And
And
so one
nobody
day,
cares.
no one cares.
Right.
No one cares.
Yeah.
They say wow once. The first time you turn up,
Once.
right, and you're in your three-wheeled car, they go wow, but they don't even say wow once. They leave you with the payments, right? So
Exactly. That's exactly right.
right, yeah. So it was like, yeah, okay. It's like,
And those
yeah,
people saying, "Wow," they don't volunteer to come over whenever you get the flu. It
yeah.
doesn't make real friends. It's your personality that's going to make real friends, not your car, not what you look like. It's what's between your ears and how you come to people.
Yeah, I remember. Wow, this is like when I was a teenager, right? I couldn't afford a really expensive car to impress women. So I got the cheapest car I could and I sprayed it with bright red paint and put Adam 12 on it, which was a TV show at the time, but just goes to show my age. And now my car was so different from everybody else's. I had all the girls I wanted. Anyway, so here's the
That's
deal.
great.
Tell me about a life lesson that you've had to learn the hard way.
Well, I had to learn that integrity is the number one most important thing that you can have in your business and in your life. So I used to think, well, integrity is a luxury and I'll just do whatever I can get away with as long as it's legal, right? I'll say whatever I need to say. I'll have fun in any way I want to have fun. And I don't care what other people think, right? I mean, their reality is their reality and mine is mine. So why should I let their rules be superimposed onto mine? And that meant that, maybe I wouldn't always tell the truth, which I'm not proud of. And I learned the hard way that, fabrications, telling flat out lies, that's not a shortcut. It's like Jordan Peterson says, who are you to bend the rules of reality? We can't bend reality. It's going to eventually come out. And so I learned that I have to have integrity at all times. Now, it doesn't mean that I have to live the way everyone else wants me to live, but if I'm going to be my authentic self, I need to be honest about it. So let's say I enjoy something nerdy like, I really enjoy bird watching, right? But let's say I don't want to tell people I was bird watching that weekend. This is a benign example. So let's say I lied and I said that, I went clubbing and I went doing this or that because it sounds cooler. And I know this is a silly example, but now it means, what? If I was bird watching this weekend, then I'm just going to say, hey, I was bird watching at this wildlife habitat this weekend. Like, oh wow, that's really nerdy, Jen. It's like, you know what? That's okay. So you can still be yourself and not let other people superimpose their thoughts, morals, and values on you, but you still need to have integrity.
What
That's
we
true. Yeah.
say and what we do can reflect on a lot of people, a lot of things, and a lot of stuff, especially if we have the businesses that we have. Look, self-employed and having your own business for anybody who's never had one, it's a journey. So you're going to have ups and downs. It's kind of like riding a surfboard. Sometimes you're going to fall off and you just get back on it, right? So there's highs and lows. You've just got to be set up in such a way that when you do have the lows, you've got, as you said, the integrity, the market supports you anyway. It says, yeah, I know it happens to everybody. Get back up. My wife always says to me,
Right.
Rick, whenever you speak, you're so politically incorrect. And I said, yeah, but if I was politically correct, people would say, Rick, how come all of a sudden you're politically correct? Right. So I always sort of say things which I probably
They would
should.
know.
Well, my wife's American, right? I'm Australian. I met my wife in Dallas. She comes from Iowa. Great place to grow corn.
Right now my biggest challenge is finding enough staff to meet the demand of all the clients. That's one day or one week. And then the next week is I need more clients. And so it's difficult to balance, the
Oh,
time between do I have enough clients and then I'll pull back because I don't have enough staff. And then after I've pulled back because I didn't have enough staff, then my client load goes down. And sometimes I don't have time to service my commercial loans the way that I would like. Cold calling business is busy. And then I have this learning curve on which deals close best on commercial and which ones don't. And so I would say that my biggest challenge right now is keeping a consistent flow of both clients and new people. Now, the last few weeks, I've had a lot of clients, but December was pretty slow. Again, being transparent, having integrity. Most of 2024 was really slow. And then all of a sudden, I think people feel better they feel hope about where things are, at least people in our business. I mean, I'm sure there are some other segments of society that feel the opposite, but people are optimistic right now. And let's hope that their optimism is well founded.
and if we talk about the times and all the years you've been in business now, in your 9 years, and the way you've grown this monster, what do you reckon the best bit of advice you've had someone tell you, or the best advice you've ever received from anybody?
As far as business advice goes, that's going to be a book I read called Go for No. So Go for No teaches you to try to get as many no's as possible while doing your best. So my goal is to be more rejected than anyone else on the planet in terms of talking to sellers and getting in front of clients and getting in front of loan clients as well. And that is, again, doing your best. So it means I need to have competitive products, services, and making sure I'm a good listener and a good leader. And so without rejection, we just tend to stay in our own little space, never actually achieve anything. And most of us, especially in the United States, I notice, I don't see this as much in other countries. You can corroborate this, Rick. Americans, for some reason, are really, really scared of rejection for some reason. It makes them, oh, I hate cold calling. Oh, I hate getting on the phone. I'm great in person, but I'm just terrible talking on the phone. Oh, I hate talking to strangers.
Look,
If I let that bother me, I'd be in a bad way.
look, I wrote a book once called How to Get People to Give You Money. And it talked about the fact that my generation, the older people above 40, the way we learned to communicate was when we were little kids. We used to play in the front yard or play in the backyard with other little kids, and we'd learn how to communicate playing hospital chasings, tag, all this other stuff, right? So that by the time we're about 18 or 20, we know how to communicate with other adults.
Right.
Well, now the new generations don't talk to strangers. Everybody doesn't have a front yard, doesn't have a backyard, and the new
That's right.
generation all learns on little TikToks and little hand devices. Okay, so there's no actually interactions between humans. The younger generation, because they've had no understanding of communication between interact, they've lost the nuance and what's called syntax. They can't communicate. They've had devices, and now they're told to speak to somebody cold. They just can't do it. And the other thing that you thought was exciting is that, we have in the brain, because I'm pretty big into brain science, this thing called the amygdala switch, right? And from the time we're 7, it defaults to no and points towards reptilian brain, which means the brain always thinks no before it thinks yes. Now, knowing that, the people are always going to think no instead of yes. I want the no to be a yes. So whenever I finish a sentence, it also says, Jen, just suppose we did that. Would that present a problem? No, because I don't going to say no.
Exactly.
Yes, right? Yeah. So
you're exactly right.
It's just that you went down this tangent and I'm thinking, oh my God, she's just walked into my TP. So yeah.
It's great. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, there we go. So I sort of get it. What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of the fact that my children have seen that you can create any kind of life that you want to live and then make it happen. It's kind of like that Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. If you want to view paradise, simply look around and view it. Anything you want to do it, want to change the world, there's nothing to it. And I created my life exactly how I wanted it to look. And it took a long time, not just 9 years, because before that 9 years, I mean, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad in the year 2000. I was 15 years old. I worked in a bar for a long time from age 18 to 24 because it allowed me to still make money and have the freedom because I could come and go as I pleased. I didn't have to have a set schedule. And then I became a housewife for a time, finished college, and I was a first generation college student who graduated summa cum laude, actually in the Behavioral and Brain Sciences School at the University of the University of Texas at Dallas, so UTD. And that's a difficult school to get into, and it's very competitive to get in. I dropped out of high school at 18 and I went to community college, got a good GPA, and then went to college. And so you can do anything that you put your mind to, but it's a recruiting business. So I couldn't have done it without my spouse. I couldn't have done it without his support in terms of logistical support, etc. If he was against it, I couldn't have done it. And so choose your spouse extremely carefully. Take time getting to know them. We dated for 8 years before we got married.
Right.
I'm very picky, very, very picky.
Is that because you kept forgetting his name?
Yeah. Well, he did have some competition, and I'm sure I would have too. But he decided I was the one for him pretty early on, and it took me a while to come around. Because I was scared, and for good reason. We should be scared about that. Wow. And but yes, I'm very proud that I hopefully have shown my children that you do not have to live in a way that keeps you trapped or scared or having someone else tell you what to do. most people are looking to be led anyways, so you might as well oblige them. And
What you teach people various things, and what do you teach people?
yeah, so whenever people come to me, they want to learn how can I talk to sellers and get them to sell their house to me at 50% of after repair value.
Yeah,
Well, that is a very difficult skill set to acquire. We're not selling life insurance here.
yeah,
There are times whenever I'm ready to switch businesses. My buddies, selling life insurance are killing it. Sometimes much easier than what it takes for me to kill it. So this isn't a 600. This is not a $60, $90 a month commitment. This is people who are giving up half of the only potential windfall they have in their life. I mean, people don't win the lottery, but they may inherit a house or they may need to sell a house to move on in life. And this is the only windfall that they have looking forward to them. So their entire thought process is how can I get as much money as possible from this property? And there's no way they're going to give that to you easy. I don't care how much they like you. So they have to need to sell at a discount. So that's what you're looking for.
it's funny. I started to smile as you were talking because over the years, of course, people have said to me, "How do you do that? How do you do that? How do you do that?" Right? And then and this whole thing about talking to sellers, and I used to do. Here are the scripts. Here's what you say. Here's your, and you'd be, and people just. It's really hard for people to read it,
Yes,
understand it, have the nuance it, and reproduce it. And I
that's
found the
exactly right.
solution for me was when you show people they absorb information at the rate of about 6,000 times faster than when they had to read it. So what I started
So
doing was
true.
just saying, tell them, I'll speak to the seller, get on the Zoom, there'll be you on the Zoom, you're my assistant, seller's there, me there, and just watch me do it. And then when they watch me do it, they go, now it all comes together, right? And I'd
That's
say, like,
right. Yeah,
let's
that's
say, look, I tell
exactly
you what,
right.
and I'd say, listen, watch me 3 times. It never changes. The only thing that'll ever change is my shirt, and it's the same stuff that comes out of my mouth every single time. And people get
That's
the
true.
because they pick up the nuance, the style. Because sometimes when you give people words, they go, "Really? Do those words work?" But it's never actually the words; it's the tonality and the
A
nuance
hundred
and the
percent.
stroke and how you slide those words in. Do you know what I mean?
You're
Which is the
exactly right.
magic. And I've just always found that the magic now, especially now the entire world's on Zoom, it's like, hey, come on the Zoom, let's do it on the spot. And I get the student there, and it just works. But
It
again,
does.
I just don't have that much time to do it anymore. But it saves me a lot of manuals and books and papers and trying to
Exactly.
write stuff down on how to stuff down. You know what I'm saying? And also,
I know
people
100%.
people want the implementation now. There's enough information on the internet. You don't need me to supply information. It's like all the information is there. Just show me how it all comes together, right? And yeah,
That's
people
so
want to buy
true.
the implementation.
It's going to be all these little things at once, but eventually, just like driving, it's going to become second nature. And let me tell you something. Here's the good news. This is actually a lot less dangerous than driving. I mean, people die in car wrecks every day. You're not going to die doing this. You may be afraid you're going to go broke, but the
Yeah.
way you avoid going broke is, I'm sure that's where your knowledge comes in, right? You don't have to put a down payment down with creative financing. You don't have to put a down payment down with seller financing. You can negotiate that. You can make it so all you have to do is worry about the debt service once you have a tenant in there, whether it's long term, Airbnb arbitrage, whatever it is. There are ways to do this that do require more negotiation skills where you don't have to put your money on the line. So I think they're afraid of going broke and they're afraid of what they don't know, which is a very real thing.
Jennifer, something that you'd like people to learn from our talk today would be what?
That with enough focus and effort compounded over time, you can achieve a vision that is exactly that what you want it to look like.
Well, Jennifer, thanks very much for coming on. I'm going to put all your contact details here on the page so that people can connect with you more directly. But thanks very much for coming and spending the time today.
Thank you so much for having me, Rick. I really appreciate your time.
Okay, bye bye.